Go. Okay, hi everybody. This is Joe Massaro with Yahweh Sisterhood Book Club. So excited to have you with us today. If you don't know us, we are a book club, but the great thing about us is we read a book, but we also get to meet the author, and we're really excited about the author tonight that's going to be with us. Neena Gaynor is her name, and her book is The Bird and the Bees. So welcome. We're so excited to have you with us.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Now, when I saw the title, I had not a clue, obviously, what the book was about, but I loved it so much. I have been sharing as much as I possibly can about it. But let's talk a little bit about you first. Now, you have two boys, is that correct?
That's correct. A 6-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Okay. And what I've read is that you enjoy bookkeeping. How about beekeeping?
Beekeeping, yes.
Is that a little bit of a stretch?
It's not that much.
A good cup of coffee, and you like to write.
That's right. That's right.
Now, are you still writing for, you said that you write for your local newspaper, the Clarion. Are you still doing that?
I do. I have a weekly column with the Clarion and Kentucky Today, which is an online news magazine. And my column's called Words Like Honey. So it's Proverbs 16:24, depending on your variation of the Bible. It's kind, gracious, or pleasant words are like honey, healing for the soul and good for the body. And so I just kind of have any random sort of topics. You know, I've talked about chocolate milk and country music before, so anything, but just under the umbrella of things that are pleasant and gracious and kind.
I've read some of them. They're really great.
Thank you.
Now, what I read was that you spent around the last decade or so traveling with your husband, Wade, who
Yes.
was was a professional baseball player.
Yes, he's retired now.
Okay.
And are you in Fort Wayne?
I'm in Fort Wayne.
Okay, well, we've been to Fort Wayne before with playing against the Tin Caps.
Oh, you
right?
have? Oh my gosh!
Oh, yeah.
I actually was there for a game. Probably not.
Oh, yeah.
I've only lived here 5 years. I'm really from New York.
Okay. Well, we've traveled all over really the eastern half of the United States. My husband's retired from baseball now, and he's into banking. So kind of a big leap from one profession to the other. But he was in the Detroit Tigers organization and kind of bounced all around through that.
All right. Well, my family is originally from the Bronx. All of myself and my siblings were all born there. And so we are huge Yankee fans.
Me too. It's hard not to be a Yankee fan.
My husband is a Mets fan. So there's always this thing going on in our house.
House divided, yeah.
House divided, yes.
But we're Yankees fans. We're big time Tigers fans. It's hard not to be when that's under that organization for 7 years.
Well, I have a brother, one of my brothers, who is has a learning disability and is autistic. He's 65 now. And I have to tell you, I hear people say this all the time. I'm the biggest fan of this thing or that thing. Or my brother Robert is, I have to say this, is the biggest fan of the Yankees.
Oh, yeah.
I really feel like this helped him as he was growing up and developing. And to this day, like, of course, now there's no baseball. So
Yes.
This was a huge adjustment for him. But I really think it helped him throughout the years to become more of the person that he has become out of his love of watching baseball.
Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful game. And, you know, it's kind of a thinking man's game. And it's kind of, I don't really consider myself a thinking man, but I just loved the environment just to go and to sit there and, you know, to soak in a Saturday. But for us, it was really, 7 days a week. But
Sure.
I love baseball, and this first season without any games whatsoever to watch and enjoy has been a huge adjustment.
Sure. Yeah, I guess that's a real good reason why in your book, one of your characters is a baseball player.
Yes. I guess story inspired there just by real life. A lot of the instances and experiences of the main character are things that I've had a taste of. I can't say that everything that she's experienced has been my own personal life story. I actually have a wonderful mother, and the character, she kind of has a strained relationship with her mom. But, I was a nurse before I was a writer, before we had children. So the main character is an ER nurse and a surgical nurse. And, she falls for this professional baseball player, which is a huge part of my own story.
Sure.
And she's also from Appalachia, which is where I was born and raised for 16 years.
Wow, that when I was reading that about you, it was very different from the life that I knew growing up in the Bronx.
I
And
bet.
oh yeah, I mean, our idea of fun was when the firemen would come by in the summer when the weather was so hot, and they would open up the fire hydrants, and we would run through that to get to cool down. So that was like our big summer event. So um, yeah, just a little different. So let's go back and talk about the very beginning of your book. We know a little bit about the characters you were just talking about. This is your first novel?
This is, yes.
Okay. How did you begin to think, you were going to write this? Because we have people who are writers, authors, people who would be like, gee, how could I possibly write a story? There's all different types of people who watch this. So maybe you could share a little bit about your journey in writing this.
One of the biggest tips I think you hear when you say you want to write and you don't know where to begin is people tell you to write what you know. And for me, I had to really reflect and say, well, what is that? And it ended up being ABC. It was Appalachia. B just had a ton of things. It was beekeeping and baseball. And then C was Christ. And, just my heart was with him. I wanted to glorify him with this book and anything that I write or I do. So that was a huge part in the direction that I wanted to take the book and any, writing venture that I wanted to take on. So even writing my column or my blog or writing a novel or, maybe writing a children's book one day or something like that. But I think really leaning in and evaluating what you already know and doing it differently or experiencing it differently, new eyes with it always helped me. So talking with somebody and see what they're interested in, what parts of your own story spark interest in others.
Sure. So you obviously know about bees.
Yes.
Maybe you could
Quite
share
a
a
bit.
bit about how you got into that and your love of it, because obviously you have a love there.
I do. I think they're just amazing little creatures and so intricately designed. And I think that's just an amazing just testament of our creator. He spent all this time creating a little bug. How much more does he know and he love us when he made us in his image? But I got into beekeeping about 10 years ago. I was about to be married to my husband, and my mom wanted to go into this little hobby together and just find something for us to do and share a time with. But as we mentioned, I was about to embark upon this whole baseball gypsy lifestyle where we're moving constantly. And so as my mom kind of gets started in this, I'm living vicariously through her pictures and her stories. And when Wade, he retires and we finally set some roots down in Kentucky, that's when we went out and we got our first hives and we started ourselves. Only in, I guess it's been almost exactly a year, my parents sold the farm and became our neighbors. So now we've joined hives and we're all together, one big happy family.
Now, where are you living now?
We're in Western Kentucky, Owensboro.
Okay. All right. So you're thinking about this book, you're writing it, the story comes together. You obviously have a lot of input from a lot of people. You get to the point where you're about to publish it and have this big day of, online, and it's going to be available for people. And then this global pandemic hits.
Yes. Not something that anybody has ever planned for, I'm pretty sure. And, that's okay. It was God's plan. He knew it was going to happen from the very beginning.
You did.
And, the story itself is a message of hope and encouragement. And I just think that message rings all the truer during these times. Sure, I didn't have like this big, wonderful, extravagant party with friends celebrating and book signings and readings and all this stuff, but that's okay. That's okay. I've done these Zoom chats are a great way to connect with people that I never would have been able to connect with. And, I know the story will get into the hands that it's supposed to, and that's just my prayer.
And I think I heard you say at one point that you thought it was providential.
I do. I think, like I said, we didn't know this was going to happen, but the whole time, I'm weaving words. He's weaving a plan. And if we're going to do what we do for his glory, then he'll use it.
Yeah, and I so believe that, that is why I know I've had other authors who have connected with me and said, oh, I'm moving my book down the road, or I'm going to keep it where it is. I really do believe that God has this and has obviously the world in his hands. And I'm so grateful that we have this opportunity to be able to do what we do. And
Yes.
so, I mean, I think about people being at home when my kids were growing up. There was no internet. There was no any of the things that we have today to stay connected with family. I'm still able to Zoom with my children in New York and in other places and grandchildren, and I'm so grateful for that. Let's talk about your kids for a minute, because I was sharing with you, I saw a video, and it was when you opened up your box of your book. And I know what that's like, because I got a box last year of my first book. I think I stuck it somewhere else. But they were absolutely adorable, and they were opening up the books, and let me just find, and this is what they were doing. Let me just do this. This is what your one son was doing. I think it was your younger son, looking for pictures.
Yes.
And there were no pictures. And then I think it was your oldest one then went through it like this, and he goes, wow. And you thought that was a really positive wow, and he goes, wow.
Yeah, thank you.
I thought they were absolutely adorable.
They really never lack any humor. So we are full of joy over here. It's one of the great gifts is just to be around them, even just a little bit more during all this time. And even though that wasn't some grand opening or anything like that, it was something I don't think I'll ever forget. And it was truly sweet.
Absolutely. I just loved it. I was laughing. I had to bring my husband to look at it.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Larkin, maybe your character, your nurse character there in the book. First of all, how'd you come up with the name? I'm always interested in names, how people decide on names.
Well, I've always loved the name Larkin, and I think if we'd ever had a girl, I would have pushed hard for that name. But a part of my testimony, I think you could say, had something to do with a bird, and that's a long story, but we'll leave it kind of mysterious with that. And so I've always had just an intrigue with, creation. Our Creator, He makes all things so, sunsets and oceans and these magnificent, wonderful things. And so when I look for names for characters, I tend to look at botanical field guides or, nature books.
Mm-hmm. So that's how you came up with it.
That's how, and maybe, plays into the suspense and the mystery of her character.
I think it definitely does. And Catch Divine.
Yes.
Now
Catch Divine, because he's quite catch, I would say.
Yes.
And and divine because he's really a Christ-like figure. He loves Larkin, despite all of her shortcomings and all of her failures and all of her faults. And, he's just so full of grace, and our Lord is just so full of grace. So that's where the divine comes from.
I like that a lot. I didn't catch that at all, but.
That's okay. Somebody was saying something, and I read a review, and they went into this character and what they gleaned from it, and I was like, oh, I didn't even intend for that, but that was good. So I love, how it speaks to everybody is different. So
I loved Larkin's story. I think as women, there's parts of it that women can relate to. I knew that in my life there was many things in her past that I could share about my own. Mm-hmm. But what I love is you were talking about Catch and his beautiful grace and mercy and love, and he was just he's just a beautiful person.
Yes.
He loves the Lord. obviously he wasn't always there, but boy, when he got a hold of the Lord, boy, he was on fire for him. And he could have gone some other ways. I mean, he's a baseball player, as in the story, the women are hanging all over him.
Right, right, and that's real life.
Well,
They're attractive men that it's hard not to love the boys of summer.
Sure, sure. Oh, I like that, the boys of summer. What do you think you want to this book to really speak to? To other women, I would say. I know that there are things that I have read. I know that there are things that I feel, but as the author and as a sister in Christ, I guess, there are women out there that are going through so much, even especially now in this time. Fear is certainly one of them.
Right. Well, the book itself, the main theme of the whole story is choice. And, I think all of our lives, every minute of every day, we're presented with a choice. From the time you wake up in the morning, when your alarm goes off, are you going to hit snooze or are you going to get up and get to work?
Sure.
And, I think we're presented with choices small and large, just from the snooze button to who you're going to marry. And I think that we can choose life in each one of those instances. And by life, I mean, we can choose the way, the truth, and the life. We can choose that in every moment. When my kids come at me, we're together under the same roof for 24 hours a day, and I don't even know what week we're on with the pandemic.
Sure.
But can I give them my full attention because that's what they need at that moment? Or, am I just going to keep staring at my phone and mindlessly scrolling? I just think that when we look back on our days, we will have made so many decisions that ultimately compile our life. And I think we just need to choose Jesus in every moment. Another big part of the story is how even if we haven't, if we've kind of screwed up and messed up and fallen short, that we can choose him with the next decision. And he's more than happy to embrace us and forget all the rest.
Yeah. That's so true. And I know from my own life, I always say my theme song before I met Jesus was Searching for Love in All the Wrong Places.
Yes. I think a lot of women can relate to that.
Yeah, that's where my life basically was. And, I have four beautiful, five. I have one that's in with the Lord and four beautiful children, that are still with me. And, I wonder sometimes who that person was years ago. Looking back, I definitely know that if I did not find the Lord, my life would not be what it is today. That journey that I was going on was not good. It was not good at all. And I could have very well destroyed not only myself, but my children.
I think when women were created, our vocations naturally are vocations of relationships, wife and mother. And I think that's another reason our decisions, they're so important because they impact so many. It's not just us, but it's, as you're saying it, they're impacting our husbands, they're impacting our children, if we're taking care of our parents. Sure. Because we're such nurturers, by nature.
Yeah, I think one of the things I love about what I do is that I get to talk to women like you, who then other women get to hear. Because when I was growing up, or when I was a young mom, there was nobody around me to speak into my life, to share the things that I really needed to hear. And I guess that's why I'm so passionate about what I do.
Well, you do a wonderful thing, and I love, a reading list, but just something that is going to be good and wholesome and really feed your soul. So just thank you for providing even those.
Well, I so appreciate you and taking the time to be with us. Is there anything else you want to share at all? Maybe something that we haven't talked about. I don't like to talk too much about the plot of the book because I don't want to give it away. Do you have a copy in front of you, by the way? Can you hold up your book?
I can, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So,
okay. The Bird and the Bees.
The Bird and the Bees. Yeah. And it's copy or the cover is just beautiful. I think I was super happy with that.
I love the
And
cover. I
thank you.
really
Thank
do.
you.
It's absolutely beautiful. Um,
It's a piece of art. And like I said, when the boys opened the box, it was, I thought they were as excited as I was about it. But
um, so how, if people want to connect with you,
Mhm.
how can they do that?
Oh, well, I have a website, wordslikeHoney.com, and
Mhm.
that's my blog. It has kind of all of the different ways you can connect with me. But
Okay.
I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I kind of do Twitter, try to, and Pinterest. But again, it's Neena Gaynor, and it's spelled a little funny, so it's Neenagaynor. But I'm a millennial, so I'm all the places.
I would just encourage you not only to get a copy for yourself, but to gift a copy to someone. At this time, I find more and more people I hear are actually picking up a book and reading.
I think
So,
so.
yeah, I would just think this is a perfect time to do that. I know that I have one that's going to a friend of mine back in New York, and she'll hopefully have it in the next day. And I know that she will be totally blessed by it. But Neena, we just appreciate you. God bless you. We'd love to have you come back for something else. But do you have anything up and coming that you want to let us know about?
No, not currently. I'm writing and working on it and kind of plotting through some things right now. So
Okay.
hopefully there'll be another, contemporary romance, but not just yet.
Okay. So we're going to hold you to that. And we're going to say
Yes.
when you're ready, we would love to have you come back and hear more about it. But I looked, by the way, you can also watch her Facebook page and her other information. You'll get to see some video of her out with the bees as well.
Yes. Yes. We're kind of missing. I usually do preschool classes about bees and, young elementary school students during this time. So I've totally missed my time with the little kids. But
Well, hopefully that will end pretty soon and we can get back to what might be a new normal, but it will be something that we know that we can get through with the Lord. So thank you again, and continue to follow Neena's journey. And we just appreciate you being with us, and say hello to your husband and your kids.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, honey.